Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, let's explore together how to approach one of the most universal human experiences, regret about past choices and decisions. If you've been carrying the weight of past decisions, replaying scenarios in your mind, and wondering what your life might have looked like if you had chosen differently, please know that you're experiencing something that connects you to every human being on this planet. This feeling is more common than many people realize, and there are scientifically backed approaches that can help you transform regret from a source of suffering into a catalyst for growth and positive change. Understanding what happens in our minds and brains when we experience regret is the first step toward healing and moving forward. Current research suggests that regret is not simply an emotional response, but rather a complex cognitive and neurological process that involves specific brain pathways and can significantly impact our psychological well-being and future decision-making abilities. Recent systematic reviews published in 2024 have revolutionized our understanding of how regret affects mental health and what effective interventions look like. The most comprehensive research to date includes meta-analyses examining over 400 trials with more than 52,000 patients, making this the largest body of evidence ever compiled about psychological treatments for regret-related distress. This research found that regret processing involves specific striatal dopamine pathways in the brain that represent reward distributions and influence how we learn from our experiences. When we understand these mechanisms, we can work with our brain's natural processes rather than against them. One of the most significant findings from recent neuroscience research is that prolonged engagement with regret not only undermines psychological well-being but also creates biased patterns in our future decision-making. This means that staying stuck in regret doesn't just make us feel bad in the present moment, it actually impairs our ability to make good choices going forward. However, the same research shows that specific cognitive strategies and interventions can effectively interrupt these negative cycles and restore healthy decision-making patterns. Scientists have identified that there are two primary types of regret that affect us differently. Action-related regrets, which involve things we did that we wish we hadn't done, and inaction-related regrets, which involve opportunities we didn't take or chances we didn't pursue. Research consistently shows that action-related regrets, although painful, tend to motivate people to learn from their mistakes and move forward more effectively. Inaction-related regrets, however, are more likely to lead to depression, anxiety, feelings of being stuck, and persistent longing about what might have been. The breakthrough discovery that has transformed how mental health professionals approach regret is the understanding that self-forgiveness requires cognitive reframing of our views of ourselves and our past choices. This isn't about making excuses or pretending that poor choices don't matter. Instead, it's about changing our understanding of past events by giving them new meaning that promotes healing and growth rather than continued suffering and self-punishment. Recent research has proven that self-compassion promotes personal improvement from regret experiences through a process called acceptance. Studies show that people with higher levels of self-compassion demonstrate greater personal improvement and healing from regrettable experiences, and when individuals are guided to take a self-compassionate perspective toward recalled regrets, they report greater acceptance, forgiveness, and meaningful personal growth through this acceptance process. Now let's explore practical methods that research has shown to be effective for transforming your relationship with past choices and decisions. These approaches are based on the scientific evidence we've discussed and focus on building skills that support long-term psychological well-being and wisdom. The first method is implementing what researchers call a cognitive reframing protocol using the stop-look-reframe technique. When you notice regret thoughts arising, first stop the rumination cycle by simply acknowledging the regret without judgment or resistance. Then look for lessons learned and growth opportunities that came from the experience, even if they weren't immediately apparent. Finally, reframe the internal narrative from something like, "I made a terrible mistake that ruined everything," to, "I learned valuable information about myself, my values, and how I want to make decisions in the future." This technique works because it interrupts the automatic negative thought patterns and redirects your mental energy toward learning and growth rather than self-punishment. Use this immediately when regret thoughts arise, spending 3 to 5 minutes working through each step mindfully and deliberately. The second approach focuses on self-compassion integration through the 3 research-backed components that create resilience and healing. The first component is self-kindness, which means speaking to yourself with the same warmth and understanding you would offer a dear friend who was struggling with similar regrets. The second component is recognizing common humanity, which involves acknowledging that making imperfect choices and experiencing regret is part of the shared human experience, not a personal failing that sets you apart from others. The third component is developing mindful awareness of regret without being overwhelmed or consumed by the emotions. This means learning to observe regret thoughts and feelings with curiosity rather than judgment, understanding that these experiences are temporary mental events rather than permanent truths about your worth or capabilities. Implement this through 10-minute daily self-compassion meditations specifically focused on past choices, using guided exercises that help you practice each component systematically. The third method involves acceptance and forgiveness cultivation using the REACH model that has been validated through clinical research. REACH stands for 5 specific steps. Recall the decision or situation that you regret, being honest about what happened without minimizing or catastrophizing. Empathize with your past self, recognizing that you made decisions based on the information, emotional capacity, and life circumstances you had at that time. Altruistically offer self-forgiveness, understanding that this benefits not only you but everyone in your life who cares about your well-being. Commit to learning from the experience and applying this wisdom to future decisions and relationships. Finally, hold on to that forgiveness when self-critical thoughts resurface, remembering that forgiveness is an ongoing practice rather than a one-time event. Research shows that 6 hours of work using this model can create lasting positive changes in how people relate to past regrets. Practice this through weekly 20-minute reflection sessions where you work through each step systematically, writing down insights and commitments to help solidify the learning process. The fourth approach focuses on future-oriented decision-making that honors the wisdom you've gained from past experiences. This involves developing decision-making frameworks based on your values and the lessons you've learned from previous choices. Practice anticipated regret exercises for current decisions, imagining how you might feel about different choices in the future, but using this information to make thoughtful decisions rather than to create anxiety or paralysis. Create value-based decision criteria that can guide future choices, helping you align your actions with what matters most to you based on the clarity that often comes from examining past regrets. Build confidence in your ability to make good decisions going forward by recognizing that past experiences, even regrettable ones, have provided you with valuable information and wisdom. Schedule bi-weekly planning sessions where you incorporate regret-informed wisdom into current life decisions and goals. The fifth method involves meaning-making and growth that transforms regret into what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. This means identifying specific ways that regrettable experiences have increased your empathy, wisdom, resilience, or understanding of what truly matters in life. Many people discover that their most regrettable experiences eventually become sources of strength, compassion, and clarity about their values and priorities. Consider appropriate ways to share your story with others who might benefit from your experience, understanding that our struggles often become our greatest contributions to others' healing and growth. Use regret as motivation for positive life changes and meaningful goal pursuit, channeling the energy of regret into constructive action rather than rumination or self-punishment. Implement this through monthly reflection sessions where you specifically examine growth areas and life improvements that have emerged from past choices, helping you see the larger picture of how challenges contribute to personal development. For optimal results, remember that regret should never be used as a tool for self-punishment, but only as a source of learning and growth. Practice accepting that some uncertainty in decision-making is unavoidable and that making choices with incomplete information is part of the human condition. Focus on present moment awareness when past-focused rumination begins, using mindfulness techniques to anchor yourself in current reality rather than getting lost in alternative histories. Seek professional support if regret significantly impacts your daily functioning, sleep, relationships, or overall quality of life, as sometimes additional help is needed to break persistent patterns of regret and self-criticism. To summarize what we've discussed today, let me share the key points that can help you transform your relationship with past choices. First, regret can become a growth catalyst through cognitive reframing, changing from a source of suffering to a source of wisdom and motivation for positive change. Second, self-compassion reduces regret-related distress far more effectively than self-criticism, creating space for healing and learning rather than continued suffering. Third, your past choices contained valuable information for future decisions, even when the outcomes weren't what you hoped for at the time. Fourth, acceptance must precede healing and forward movement, as fighting against reality only creates additional suffering on top of the original regret. Fifth, professional therapy can be extremely helpful when regret becomes overwhelming or significantly impacts your daily life and relationships. Sixth, developing present moment awareness helps break cycles of past-focused rumination that keep you stuck in regret rather than moving forward with wisdom and purpose. Your past choices, including those you deeply regret, have contributed to shaping you into someone with greater wisdom, empathy, and understanding of what truly matters in life. The experiences that cause us the most regret often become the sources of our greatest growth and our deepest capacity to help others. You have the ability to transform your relationship with past decisions by approaching them with the same kindness and understanding you would offer someone you care about who was struggling with similar feelings. Change begins when you start treating your past self with compassion rather than condemnation, recognizing that every choice was made with the information, emotional capacity, and life circumstances you had at that moment. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or avoiding responsibility, but rather approaching your past with wisdom and understanding that promotes healing and growth rather than continued suffering. If today's discussion provided any support or new perspective on your relationship with past choices, please hit the like button to help others discover this information. If you'd like to continue learning about mental health and personal growth together, please subscribe to our channel for more evidence-based content. Remember that healing from regret is a process that requires patience with yourself and consistent practice of self-compassion. May your hearts feel a little lighter knowing that your past does not define your future, and that wisdom gained through difficult experiences becomes a gift you can offer to yourself and others. Thank you for listening until the end today, and remember that every moment offers a fresh opportunity to choose growth, learning, and self-compassion.